which is not anticipated. If you head out your nearest exit, so either out here or this side, and you'll go out through the main doors, and we kind of congregate on the grass behind the Cambridge University Press site. Hopefully that won't happen, but you'll see us all going out, so just follow where we're going. So we're kind of all in the room here, but the main purpose of this kind of session is to talk to people on Facebook. So we have, I think, nearly 1,000 people signed up to watch this session. So the people who are talking will probably be trying to talk into this camera, but probably getting a bit distracted by, you know, all the friendly faces in the room. But if we're kind of ignoring you, it's because we're trying to focus on the externals. So apologies for that. We're going to talk probably for about half an hour, and then there'll be questions, hopefully through Facebook, but we would really urge some questions from inside the room as well, just so we get a bit of debate going. I think that's all I need to say. Is that okay? Perfect. So I think we've got a few minutes. You can just talk amongst yourselves until Ashley tells us it's time to start. And Monica gets here, yeah, more importantly.
She's in a meeting from 3:30 to 4. So.
And Andrew gets standing.
Are you introducing?
So I've got a mic. I've got one.
I don't know, we can pass it to you.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to this CAMED live session. If you're joining us via the live stream on Facebook, a very warm welcome to you. I know that last time we had one of these sessions, we had over 1,000 people joining us from many different countries. And we also have an audience here in the room of colleagues from Cambridge Assessment and some of the partners that we've been working with on this initiative. So a very warm welcome to all of you. We'll be here for probably about an hour. We have some colleagues and a partner who are going to talk to us a little bit about the initiative, working with refugees and asylum seekers. And after that, there'll be an opportunity for questions. So if you're here in the room in Cambridge, just raise your hand and my colleague Yossi will come around with a microphone. If you're watching on the live stream, you can type your questions directly into Facebook, and Ashley will ask your questions on your behalf. She'll also be responding to questions sort of live during the session as well. When we've finished, which will probably be once we've kind of run out of questions in the room, we will stay around to answer questions that people still might have on Facebook. Okay, so we'll begin. Sarah, if we start with you, could you give us an overview of what we've been doing with refugees over the last couple of years?
Sure. So about 2 or 3 years ago now, I think it is, a few of us got together to start this initiative that we had with the goal of really supporting forced migrants in the UK with language learning. And we had a big conference, which lots of people in the room probably know about. And from that, there's a number of initiatives. And there are initiatives around donating hardware, around providing free education via MOOCs, which we might hear more about later, by donating free content. And so we had this really big program of work that was happening, all with the aim really of just supporting people who might not otherwise have access to education and to language education. Because it's important to remember that English language, whether you like it or not, is a language of currency. And if you've got English language skills, you're more likely to get on in this world. And for a lot of the refugees and asylum seekers that we wanted to work with in the UK, having that language skill was really going to help them fit into society more. And so that was where it all came from, really. And it's kind of like gathering moss, if you like. It's like a rolling stone. It's something that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're able to engage lots of partners that we work with around the world. There's a lot of them here today, and we're able to engage lots of support from our colleagues, also a lot of them in the room today, to enable us to do kind of bigger and better.
Great, okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about the conference that we ran sort of in the early days and how we worked out what it was that we believed refugees needed?
Yeah, so we held a conference with Refugees. Now, for those of you who don't know, Refugees are a not-for-profit that coordinates the tech society's response to the refugee crisis. And so we held this conference with them. And because we are not the experts in this area at all, and there are lots of experts in this room, but we aren't the experts in refugee education, we started speaking to a lot of people. We started speaking to the Cambridge Refugee Resettlement campaign, to City of Sanctuary, to Chiron University, to the British Council, to Future. And we just started speaking to a lot of charities and companies that work in that context, so we could learn from them, so that on the day of the conference we could have this clear half a day that was aimed at getting people on the same page. It was really aimed at giving people the same level of knowledge. So we had a few refugees come, but one who spoke, who's called Hamid Al-Rashid, who's phenomenal, and he's got lots of information and he's very inspirational. We had people from Crisis Classroom come along, we had people from British Council come along, and we just wanted to give everybody the same knowledge base. And then in the second half of the conference, what we really wanted to do was workshop some ideas. So we knew we had some things we wanted to take forward, and what we really wanted to do was put more meat on the bones, was to really workshop the ideas so that we'd have some concrete initiatives to take forward out of the conference.
Okay, and I think it's possibly worth going even further back and just giving people an idea of actually how the initiative started, because I think it's a good example of how somebody's kind of enthusiasm and personal kind of engagement with something can have quite a big impact within an organisation.
Yeah, so it started because it was about 3 years ago, and I kind of got fed up of watching the news and seeing the horror and lack of humanity that was going on and is still going on in the world, and thinking there must be something I can do. And then as a kind of one individual, realizing there's not masses I can do. And then I started to think, hang on, I work for this massive massive language learning and assessment organization, surely there's something we can do. And so I pitched the idea to a few people and started to think about what we as an organization could do to be involved. And the first step of that was the conference. And so it really came from me wanting to do something positive to make a difference to what I could see, and then getting a group of similar people together to try and really force something through.
Okay. So one of the projects that came out of that initial conference was around the needs of refugees around higher education. So Mary, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what came out of that particular challenge.
Yeah, so can you all hear me?
I'll turn it on.
Is that better?
The on switch.
Yeah, so we know that there is a big issue with forced migrants being able to access education, secondary, higher education. The rates are really, really low. We also knew there are lots of individuals whose only access to education and to anything really is through their mobile. So we spoke to FutureLearn, who do online courses. We have kind of very similar missions, the aim to open up education to all. And we thought by developing a course to help students develop their skills while they aren't able to access a mainstream education because of status, because of funding, it meant they could be really productive in their use of time. They could develop their language skills. They could learn more about the processes. So when they did have status, they would be able to continue with their studies. So the course we developed was to prepare students for higher education. And it was designed for students who were doing undergraduate degrees, maybe who had been in the middle of an undergraduate degree and then had moved over to a different education system. So we built that course, built it quite quickly and opened it, and we had lots of people join it. And the really good thing was we saw communities of students who were sharing ideas and learning from each other. So it's, yeah, very positive reaction.
Okay, and obviously we're an assessment organisation. We do quite a lot around English language education, but this MOOC was broader than that, wasn't it? So how could you talk about how we sort of provided a sort of more holistic kind of advice to people who are trying to access higher education, because it wasn't just about the English language skills, was it?
Yeah, so there's a lot around it. So we spoke a lot to partner organisations like the STAR Network, organisations that support students in financial, legal, practical advice, so that we could support students and point them in the right direction, because we're not the experts in the legal side or the practical side. So it was giving them information and showing them where they could go to find more information and to move on.
Mm-hmm. And what was the reason for the selection of FutureLearn as our kind of partner for this?
So FutureLearn and us have very similar goals. We're both educational, focusing on opening access to everyone, and also FutureLearn as a platform is very much designed for use on mobile, and that suits a lot of individuals who aren't in mainstream or in education systems, because if their only access is through a mobile device, they can access this particular content anywhere.
Okay, and the impact of the course, do you know how many people we've kind of reached, or any success stories that have come out of it?
So we've seen people on the course talking about how useful it's been, how much, and also appreciation of each other. We've had in total, because we've run two different courses, but maybe I can pass to Monica to tell you about the other one. So in total, I think we've reached about 12,000 people, either teachers or learners. We've also seen on the course communities developing. We don't always see what happens after the course, so we can't see where they've gone, but definitely from the course we've seen that they've progressed, they've found places to apply to, they found information they didn't know before. So it looks like it's really helping them achieve their goals.
Okay, great. So you mentioned another course. Monica, could you talk a little bit about the volunteer teaching course?
Okay, well, out of the conference, as a result of the conference that we held in October 2006, 16. Two initiatives resulted. One was the course that Mary's just talked about, and the other one was a second MOOC, which we also hosted on the Future Learn platform, and that was for volunteers who are working with refugees. And when you design a course on Future Learn, you have to think, who is it for? And we identified two target groups. One was teachers who are subject teachers. A lot of teachers go and volunteer in camps in Calais and Greece and Italy in their holidays. So teachers who weren't necessarily language teachers, but who wanted to go and support refugees. And the other group was people like befrienders, who just wanted to kind of help, do something, go and visit families, give a bit of language support, but didn't really have a clue about language teaching. So that was our starting point. We also realised that we didn't have all the expertise we needed to do what was required, because we aren't specialists in dealing with trauma, and we wanted to provide some input on how to deal with people who are suffering from trauma. So we cooperated with an organisation based in Brighton called Crisis Classroom, and they do a lot of work with people in refugee camps, and a specialist in dealing with people who've been through trauma. We've now run 3 courses, and in total we've had 10,000 people on those courses. Now the first, not everyone, I have to say, does the course. We had 10,000 registrations, and obviously some people enthusiastically sign up and then don't do it, but we've had a lot of people do the course. The first course was quite UK based, because I think we used a lot of contacts in the UK. The second course had a lot of people from all over the world, from Australia, Canada, and this last course had kind of a lot of people from India and Africa, so each time we seem to have reached a different group. And there's been amazing sharing of ideas, of websites, of material. And I would say that probably 50% of the input on the course has come from what we created, and 50% from the sharing on the course, because I don't know if you know Future Learn, but there's a lot, every step of the course has a step where you communicate your ideas, and you like other people's ideas, and you respond to other people's ideas. And that's been, I think, one of the main benefits of the course. And at the end of the course, we have a sort of something called Answer Garden, which is a bit like a brainstorming exercise. You put in one word about how you feel about volunteering, having done the course over the 3 weeks. And people put words like inspired, ready, more confident, willing to help, wanting to get started, that kind of thing. So I think it really has had an impact and made a difference.
Okay, and Monica, you're also involved in teaching yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, well, I'm in Cambridge, as in many cities, we are a city of sanctuary, and we have various refugee groups in Cambridge. There's the Cambridge Refugee Resettlement campaign, and Sue's a member of that. And there are groups that support children and families, and there are groups that support adults in the home. And I support a lady on a one-to-one basis who's had no English at all when she came. And she doesn't really leave the house very much, so I feel it's kind of, I'm helping her learn English, but I'm also kind of a contact with for her with someone who's outside the home. And we also have classes in Cambridge which are for groups of women, and I volunteer in those as well. So it's quite challenging. I mean, I regard myself as an experienced teacher, but to go back and teach people who have no English and can't even answer what's your name in English, that's been quite a new challenge for me. And I've learnt little bits of Arabic to try and kind of communicate and make her feel good about herself too, because she regards herself as teaching me a bit of Arabic. And when I can't pronounce the words in Arabic, she realises she's not stupid because she can't pronounce the English, because I can't do the Arabic either. So it's kind of like a language exchange. So it's really an enjoyable experience to get involved in volunteering and to use your skills in a useful way.
Sarah, is it worth saying a little bit about some of the online kind of teaching that we've tried as part of this initiative?
Yeah, so we've done a trial, and I want to do more with it, but I just haven't had the time to. But we did a trial about a year ago. My time frame is dodgy, so it might be 18 months, I can't remember. But it was about a year ago, and we had some people in Cambridge English Assessment Department sign up to do some online volunteer teaching through a platform or a company called Chiron. Chiron are a not-for-profit that provide access to higher education for people without papers, so essentially for refugees. And what they do is they provide them with top-class education while they're waiting to go to university, or for their visas to be in order. And so With Chiron, they also have an English language component, so an English language platform. We did some online teaching with maybe, I can't remember, maybe 18 students of theirs via Skype or Google Hangouts. It was like a virtual session, and we had some really good teachers from assessment who spent lots of their life teaching, suddenly doing these online courses. And it was really rewarding. There's lots of really positive stories that came out of that about it was the only thing for one guy in his week to do. And there was another person who got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to attend the classes. So it was a really positive experience. But I think it's fair to say, I don't know if any of the teachers are here, but I think it's fair to say that sometimes the technology let us down, which is perfectly understandable because you're delivering a class to maybe 6 people who are in geographically different locations, and your kind of bandwidth sinks to the lowest bandwidth, and so often you had people cutting out, and you had the class suddenly taking place via phone, and so there were some technical complications, but overall it went really well. And I think it's something we want to explore more of, is how we can use some of the skills that we have to provide really high quality language teaching to people who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity. And also it is to provide some maybe teacher training, some buddying in that area, because there's an organization that we work with called Paper Airplanes, and they provide online English language learning to people affected by conflict. And a lot of their teachers are volunteers and maybe don't have the experience that they need. And so we could kind of support them, and we could really do some mentoring and talk through them any problems they've got and support them with lesson plans and things like that. So I think there's a lot that we can do in that area.
Okay, thank you. And technology seems to be a bit of a theme. So you mentioned about technology not working perhaps so well. We've talked about the online courses being very accessible through mobile. Will, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the work we do around donating equipment?
Yeah, sure. So another thing to come out of the conference was the need for refugees to have access to mobile phones and to laptops and to iPads that they could access educational content on, as well as, contacting friends and, creating a community and being, connected to the outside world. Prior to us donating our old hardware, we would basically pay a company to get rid of it for us, wipe it clean, and it would just be disposed of. As you can imagine, we're quite a large organisation. We use a lot of laptops, we have a lot of phones. We're constantly reviewing the systems and operatings we have, so we're constantly upgrading what we use. So instead of getting rid of this and paying for a company to dispose of it, we thought, let's see if we can actually get it cleaned and then donate it to refugees and asylum seekers. So working very closely with our IT department, we are now, every piece of hardware we no longer need, we will get it cleaned and wiped. We can put educational content on it, so we can put English language material on it, and we will donate it to refugees and asylum seekers from different charities. So we've had stuff go out to France, to Greece, some of it stays in the UK. We try and respond to the sort of requests we get for this sort of material, but we really want to try and help out in a way that we thought was quite possible, and it's also a model that other organisations can replicate, because other organisations will, like ourselves, get rid of equipment, be paying to do so, to making sure nothing's left on it, and actually you could actually donate this equipment to a charity.
Do you know how many pieces of equipment we've donated so far?
So in total, we've donated 220 laptops and phones, and we're currently exploring how we can donate our old iPads as well.
Okay, great. Sue, I think you can probably talk a little bit about donations that you've received, and perhaps a little bit about your charity as well and what you're trying to achieve.
I'm Sue Spencer. I'm a trustee of Cambridge Refugee Resettlement campaign. If you're interested in volunteering in any capacity, it doesn't have to be English language teaching, please come and see me at the end of this session, just so you don't forget. Okay, just to show how these donations have come into actually work on the ground. This campaign that I'm working with supports 19 families in Cambridge. It's not very many. We did have a very strong campaigner, and she's now left us. So if you're interested in campaigning for getting more refugee families to come into Cambridge, please do see me. So over the last 2.5 years, we've had 19 families, 100 refugees, and we have 100 volunteers working with us. So in terms of English language teaching, Monica's talked about the Future Learn course. That's helped 12 volunteers who have either inputted onto this course or have taken part in this course, who work with children on a one-to-one level. So Monica also provides her expertise when we meet once a month. This is the volunteers who support children in the home and a one-to-one tutorial play type situation. And we meet and we talk about how best to run these sessions. And Monica gives us lots of ideas and websites and brings in games that she's got from the Oxfam shop down the road. And it's very ELT-ish, and we think, God, I wish I'd... And then you do paired stuff, and then you do back-to-back, and we think, yeah, we do know how to do it. So it's very inspirational to have one person on the ground who just says, yay, you can do it, and gives us lots of ideas. So that's how this partnership with Cambridge Assessment works as well. We do one-to-one with adults in the home, and which Monica does, and we also run classes for people who can't access courses at CRC, i.e. people who've got small children and can't, there's not a childcare facility. We also have focal points. Andrew's sitting over there, he's a focal point, and he speaks Arabic, so any Arabic speakers are hugely welcome. I'm sure there are lots of you in this room who do speak Arabic, so translators are really, really important. So we have focal points who deal with the needs for, on a day-to-day basis of families, their benefits, being broke, spending too much water, not being able to get their kids into school, their kids not liking the school, any things that they have in the usually at the beginning when they're just saying, help me, and they want something tangible to help them, like, you know, curtains or a frying pan, you know, and then the other things come out. So those are focal points, and Arabic interpreters to interpret these needs and wishes. We also have other nicer fun things like organising socials once a month at Mayfield Primary School on a Saturday afternoon. So if you fancy your hand at washing up, you're always welcome. And running people to and from the socials with taxis, or being a taxi service, and doing play activities within the socials. They're quite important too. We also have a lovely project, which is a gardening project. So a few people go into the homes and do a remake of the garden and do call-outs on Facebook and other media sources to get plants and herbs and things like that. And this group spend the weekend with the family and buy them lawn mowers and tools and just replan the garden for them. We also have people campaign. We work a lot, very closely with interfaith groups who are absolutely wonderful in this crisis in terms of actually doing things on the ground. So about 5 individuals in Cambridge have offered their second homes for the families, and that's a completely wonderful thing. So I'm always heartwarmed by the generosity of people. A woman from Studio English coordinates holiday activities, and her institution, her school, allows her 4 hours a week to be able to coordinate activities for the families during holidays. So I think I've just about covered it. We also have a media group. Catherine's over there at the back, and so she runs the Facebook. We've also just been to a session on improving our Facebook and website design. So that was really nice and free. Thank you, Sarah. So all sorts of things are happening, but my view is that partnerships are the ways forward, because that kind of A+B=C in my book, and that provides an energy which powers lots of change going on, and it just provides a dynamism and a relationship, and that kind of spreads networks and goodwill. For example, Monica's my old friend we did an MA in linguistics together. So it's really nice working with her, and I know what she's going to say before she says it, and she won't want to come in late to this. And her boss is saying, no, she won't mind. Yes, she will. So it's just that kind of thing, that kind of friendship carrying on in a different creative way, in a different way, to do something good. And as there's 69 million displaced people in the world. And as our chair says, if you can walk and talk, you should be doing something. On that note.
Okay, thank you. I'd completely agree on that point about partnerships, and I think one of the things for us that has come out of this initiative is the role that organisations can play in connecting different people. So we can't necessarily help with every single request we get, but we can certainly do our utmost to put people in touch with each other and to make those connections. So could you talk a little bit about the bursaries, because we've not covered that yet?
Yeah, so I'll just talk about something else first.
Okay, fine.
Just on the partnerships point, it's about the Barclays.
Okay.
We have some debate amongst us over whether it's Barclays or Barclays, and I'm always
Barclays.
wrong, whatever. But because of the conference that I already told you about, there was a woman who attended the conference who works at Barclays called Elizabeth Oster, and she's kind of stayed in touch with us over the past couple of years. She's met Juliet a few times, and I met her a couple of months ago, and we talked about what Barclays could do to support this. The bank. And yeah. And what happened is they arranged their charity day to be based around kind of one of the things was they have this charity day every year where they provide bespoke consultancy by some of their senior managers to charities, and we kind of did it together, and we organized it together and arranged for all of the refugee charities that we work with to attend that event at the bank. And that was really good, because from that, me, Andrew, Nye, and Chloe went, and we kind of spoke to a lot of people about solving their problems. And one of the problems that came out of that was we don't know how to use social media properly to engage people and to get our message across. And so kind of me and Chloe were speaking on the tube on the way back, and we thought, well, surely that's something we can do. That's a tangible thing that we can do in a couple of weeks. And so we arranged this free social media training for charities today. And there's a lot of the charities in the room. Sue came to kind of be upskilled in that area. So that's a really nice example of partnerships and how it kind of extends across time.
Yeah.
Another partnership, getting back to your question now, is with Refugee. So when we started this, in my head, it was always like, well, can't we do some free language exams? Because it feels like a no-brainer and it feels quite easy. And so I kind of went to see Saul and said, can we do some free language exams, basically? And he said yes. And so now we have a number of bursaries every year for refugees and asylum seekers in the UK who need to evidence their language abilities. We agreed we'd do 50 in a year just to pilot it and see how it works. We've done 11 so far, but we'll continue doing more. And so that's the bursary scheme. It's just allowing people in the UK who need to prove their English with a free kind of top-class language certification. And that's been quite popular. And we do that with Refugee, who are a charity based in London who support the refugee community as well.
Yeah, and if there are any refugee charities who are actually watching live, do put your details on the Facebook page so that people are aware of what you're doing. Okay, so that seems like quite a good summary of where we are now. So what's the future?
So there's a core team of us who are always kind of planning what we can do next. And because you know, what we've done really is a drop in the ocean, and we want to kind of do more and support people more. So we know we can continue our hardware donation scheme, and that's a really tangible, positive thing. But we also know that Cambridge English is a small part of the Cambridge umbrella. And so what we're doing at the moment is we're talking to different people at the university, at Cambridge English Publishing, at Cambridge University Press, to see if we can get everybody together and see what's happening in each of the different organisations in this area. And it turns out that the university is offering 7 scholarships to refugees starting this September, but they're also planning beyond that. And so we want to work with them and see if we can tie things up a bit neater and have a single narrative, if you like, about what Cambridge is doing. So that's one thing that we're doing. My mind's just gone blank. What's the other thing?
We're talking about another course, aren't we, potentially, on language?
So we're, yeah, thank you. We're talking about another MOOC for employability. So we know that lots of people, a barrier to getting a job is their English language skills and knowing how to act in an interview situation, for example. And so we want to do another MOOC to support employability. So that's something that we'll start working on soon. We've also had some interest from the office in Dubai, so from the Cambridge Assessment English office in Dubai. And there's a man who works there called Hisham. And he has put forward a proposal for us to do a conference on refugee education in Jordan next year sometime. So we're exploring that and how we can kind of get more people together, how we can get kind of some research done in that area and bring forward some more initiatives to take forwards. And we're looking at supporting kind of whatever comes our way. So often I'll get emails from people saying, so for example, I had emails from a company, from somebody who worked in a camp, and they wanted to get some free exams for the people there. And so that's something that we're following up. So I guess we've got ideas of what we want to do. We know we want to involve more people. We know we want to do more, but we just keep following up on things as they come through as well. And to a certain extent, it grows organically.
So how can people either here in the room as colleagues of ours, or people who work for other organisations, how can they get involved?
So the first thing is that if you want to work with us, and you're a charity, so we kind of work on the refugee charity side because that's something we started, but we also have a charities committee that does work in other areas. For people who want to get involved, we've recently been talking to people about how we can spread the hardware donation program, and so we've got somebody working with us on that so that staff can donate their own hardware, and so we hope to have kind of drop-off bins at some point. That's something we're working on, and it's a tangible thing you can do that doesn't take any time, but to put something in a drop-off point. We're interested in people who can help us operationalize some of what we do. For example, my desk is quite often piled high with laptops and mobile phones, and I know that the way I'm managing it isn't the best, and I know that there's people in this room who would be able to manage it way better than me, or would be able to tell me how to manage it better. So at the moment, it's just fairly ad hoc. There's a MOOCs that Monica was talking about. There's MOOCs need mentors, and mentors facilitate the conversation in the social areas. And it's a massively rewarding thing, and I sign up to be a mentor every time. There's a MOOC happening right now, and I'm mentoring on that. The volunteer teaching one, if you're a teacher and you've got teaching skills and teaching advice, being involved in that is a really good way to go forwards, because you're tangibly helping somebody at that point in time with a problem that they've got.
And we have had mentors from outside of Cambridge Assessment
We
as well,
have had
haven't we?
mentors from outside of Cambridge Assessment. We've had people from different universities who've helped us write the MOOCs. And generally, if you think there's stuff that we should be doing that we're not doing, like speak to any of us, because we're just trying to facilitate something. We're trying to make something happen. So there are tangible ways people can be involved. And I'm sure Sue's already mentioned a bunch of tangible ways, and is signaling for the microphone.
Yeah, it's just the word Dubai, and I thought one of the things that the families want to keep for their children is to keep their Arabic skills. And so if anybody is an Arabic speaker and wants to do some English language teaching methodology around an Arabic class, that would be wonderful. We've got one woman who is an Arabic speaker who's going to start this project in September, but she will need a team. And she will need some lively pedagogic ideas, I'm sure. Yeah. We've also got another thing. We work very closely in partnership with the City Council, who work with the Home Office. So we work with the government, really. And they tell us the families that are coming, and we meet with them once a month, once a quarter, really. And they've just started advertise for a psychologist, because now that the families, some of them have been here for 2 years, they're experiencing depression and anxiety and stress and post-traumatic stress disorder and all sorts of things. So once that bona fide psychologist is in place, I'm hoping that some of the people who've volunteered to us, are hugely experienced and qualified, will be attracted to that person and then that group, to meet the psychological needs of the children and the adults. So those are the ideas that we are thinking of We're also interested in the governance of our group, because it's now 100 refugees and 100 volunteers, and our board is kind of middle management. So if there's any big leaders out there who really fancy telling us what to do, that would be brilliant, because we really need somebody who's into governance, policies, keeping it mean, clean and well directed. We'd love somebody to come and be on our board for that. We need a boss as well, I think.
Thank you very much, Sue. Okay, I think we can open it up for questions now. I don't know if there are any questions already on the live stream. Oh, really? Okay. All right. Is there any questions from the room?
Can I just add with the bursaries as well, we've also managed to secure, we've got another exam board that produces English for specific purposes, for medicine English, and we're working closely with the British Medical Association to provide bursaries for refugee doctors and then also nurses as well. So it's not just in the English language, but it's English for specific purposes as well, which I think is really important to highlight.
Yeah. Okay.
Berna, I think you had a question.
Actually, we'd probably just have to wait for the microphone to reach you if you wouldn't mind hanging on.
I wanted to ask, is this working?
Yep, I can hear you.
I wanted to ask generally about Cambridge Assessment's reach to refugees who are outside of Europe, in the first neighbouring countries, around Syria in particular. And specifically, is there any prospect of exam bursaries being rolled out to people outside of Europe?
So I'm sure there is potential. At the moment, this is a pilot scheme. And so how we're working is we're doing it in the UK and Ireland, so we can figure out the processes, what it means, like how many people we're talking about, what kind of language level are people, what is the best product. And then once we've done our pilot and we know more information, then we'll be able to decide, is this something that we can extend beyond the UK and Ireland? So I think the answer is we don't know yet. It's just, let's do this pilot first and then see what's next. But thank you for your question.
Okay, any other questions? There's Hugh at the back there.
One thing we do in the projects team is impact studies, to see how well things are working in practice. And I wondered if you sort of, not wanting to do anything too scientific, but just to keep maybe a record of some of the stories, to relate how what you've been doing has helped people would be quite inspirational, maybe. Is that something that you've been doing?
Well, it's a great idea. We did actually collect quite a lot of stories, didn't we, when we put ourselves in for a Pioneer Award, didn't we, last year? So Professionals in International Education, they have an award scheme, and we wanted really to kind of spread the word a little bit. So we kind of entered for this award, and as part of that, we did collect quite a few case studies actually. But it's probably not something we've been doing too actively since.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm kind of like in two minds about it. So, and I'm probably wrong. So on the one hand, it's good to have all of these stories, and so we can say this is what we've done. But on the other hand, I'm kind of very protective about the people that we support and not want to actually use their name to glorify us as well. Which I know isn't what you're saying. So the idea of doing impact studies is probably something we could look at doing at some point, but I think it's fair to say a lot of the time we're kind of chasing our tail as well. So if anybody can support us with that, if you think it's a thing we should be doing, that would be great.
Are you volunteering, Hugh?
Sorry, I think Susan.
I'll speak to my boss.
Thank you. Sue, did you have a comment?
Okay, I think what we as a charity have missed out is that thing which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's a needs analysis. What actually do the family, this is what I'm talking about, the families in Cambridge, what would you like to, what do you need, what do you want, need and like to do? And we haven't really asked them that actually, which is a terrible thing in any major project management. So if anybody'd like to do a needs analysis in Arabic, we'd be really grateful. Just as something that's on our it's in our radar, and we've made all the mistakes of any development project. If this is what we are going to do to you, and and what they've wanted has been actually an iPad, an iPhone, and a laptop, which 9 of them have had. Thank you very much. So yes, that a needs analysis would be great, and then the impact assessment after that would be even better from the family's point of view.
Another job for you then.
Yeah. Any more questions from the room?
Let's say a bit more.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Just to go back to focusing on the individuals, so the course we had for learners to access higher education, we based it very much on Ahmed and Rosina's own stories and their own needs and their own experiences. So even if you're not wanting to do that course to learn more about higher education, I definitely recommend to go and listen to their stories, and it really shows you what's happening. And same with the volunteering course, the teachers describe the things that their learners have told them, and it's really, it helps you just understand that, you know, what situations they're in. So I think those things we should make more of, but definitely for anyone wanting to learn more, I'd recommend going and visiting those courses to hear those voices.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, okay.
Sorry, it was just a question about the bursaries. I assume they're just for Cambridge English exams, but have you considered broadening it out to CIE and OCR qualifications?
And I think that's a great question, and that's probably part of what we'll try and explore once Juliet Wilson moves to CIE. But no, it's part of the One Cambridge thing that we want to explore. And I'm not sure what we're going to do in that area yet, but Juliet is. Juliet's nodding, so that's a yes, Nick. Thanks for putting her on the spot.
Okay, any final thoughts?
Okay, just to get our volunteer bank up, Andrew's a volunteer. He's a focal point and an Arabic translator. Catherine over there, do you want to wave? Catherine is a volunteer. She's runs the media group and looks at the newsletter and the webpage. Monica's a volunteer in lots of different capacities. So if you want to do volunteer with us, you can find, you don't want to talk to anybody, that's fine. Just go to the webpage, CRRC, Cambridge Refugee Resettlement Campaign, and then you can send an email to info@refugee something something, and then fill in a form and just say what you'd like to do. That would be lovely, thank you.
And you can donate things, can't you? Because I donate my twins' bikes.
Yeah, we have a staff coordinator. We've called it staff, knowing that it doesn't really get very far. But yeah, so donations are good, but that's very much, it's one thing which we realised we didn't do very well, because we had garden sheds full of somebody else's, you know, stuff they didn't want to take to Oxfam. But we do have donations for people who need something on request. So, but we also need a donations coordinator to fine tune that. Yeah, and bikes we need, and somebody teach them how to ride bikes. That'd be good too. Thank you.
That's a job for Juliet. She's looking quite pleased about that.
Okay, thank you very much to Sue, Monica, Sarah, Mary, Will, and I'm Chloe. If you're watching on the live stream, we're going to stop the recording now, but you can carry on asking questions and we'll stay behind to answer them. Same goes for people in the room. If you have questions, do stay behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.